Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are and or the time you're viewing this presentation. My name is Jose Betancourt, and I'm part of the Solutions Engineering Group at SUSE. This session is an introductory overview on SUSE, the company, as well as some of the products, tools, and projects that we're involved in the open source space. By the end of this presentation, I hope you're more familiar with SUSE as a company, the tools that we use, and where to find more in-depth information, including the products themselves and documentation. So let's quickly go over the agenda. First, a quick introduction of SUSE as a company, vision, strategy, and execution. Next, we'll quickly describe the SUSE on ARM ecosystem as available today, followed by some of the key tools that we at SUSE use for our own product development. And last but certainly not least, I ask you to take a look at our products, documentation, and training opportunities, and take some of the products for a spin. But before I move any further, take a look at the slide that I'm presenting. There are three other sessions from some SUSE colleagues. There's one on automotive, there is one on cloud native, and there is one on the topic of computing and AI at the edge. So without the agenda out of the way, let's do an introduction to SUSE, the company. So briefly a bit about SUSE. We're a global leader in innovative, reliable, and enterprise-grade open source solutions. SUSE solutions are powering thousands of blue chips customers' mission-critical workloads, including banking systems, enterprise applications, autonomous vehicles, air traffic controls, satellite operations, life-saving medical devices, and more. As you can see in this slide, we are proud to have 13 or 15 of the largest financial services firms, 14 out of 15 of the largest aerospace, 10 out of 10 in automotive, 13 out of 15 in pharma, and 5 out of 5 in the largest technology firms. We call those customers at SUSE. In the first half of fiscal year 2021, SUSE saw a 19% year-over-year growth as compared to the first half of fiscal year 2020. When it comes to initiatives, associations, and partnerships, SUSE has relationships with many leading technology providers, including chip designers like ARM, enterprise application providers like SAP, and hyperscalers like Microsoft. We also invest considerable time and resources in numerous industries initiatives and associations. I'm not going to list them all, and not all of them are even listed on the slide, but I'll name some of the ones that quickly come to mind. The Cloud Native Computing Foundation, which serves as a vendor-neutral home for many of the fastest-growing open source projects, including Kubernetes, Prometheus, and Envoy. The Open Container Initiative, which is an open governance structure for the express purpose of creating open industry standards around container formats and runtime. The Linux Foundation itself, which is a nonprofit technology consortium that was founded in 2000 as a merger between OSDL, the Open Source Development Labs, and the Free Standards Group to standardize Linux, support its growth, and promote commercial adoption. Inside the Linux Foundation, there's a new project called ELISA, which stands for Enabling Linux in Safety Applications. It's an open source project designed to create a shared set of tools and processes to help companies build and certify Linux-based critical applications whose failure could result in loss of human life. And last but not least, in what I'm listing now, the ORAN Alliance, which is transforming the radio access network industry towards open, intelligent, virtualized, and fully interoperable RAN. The ORAN architecture is a foundation for building the virtualized RAN on open hardware and cloud with embedded AI power radio control. Not only is SUSE a leader in the two most important technologies powering digital transformation, Linux and Kubernetes, but our focusing is on our open, interoperable approach that puts you in control to choose the best technology, whether it's SUSE or not, to meet your needs. For Linux, that means that you can use our Linux distribution, SUSE Linux Enterprise in its different forms. But should you choose a different one, we still can manage it, and I'll describe that later in the presentation. For Kubernetes, it means that you get a consistent and complete management experience for any Kubernetes distribution, running on any Linux distro across any environment from the data center to the cloud to the edge. SUSE's goal is to help you create optimal solutions to business challenges. Now that I described SUSE, the company, and our vision, let's focus on the products available for the ARM64 platform. When it comes to our strategy, we're focused on two important technologies for the digital transformation, Linux and Kubernetes. And we want to ensure that our products can be consumed across the entirety of today's hybrid infrastructure, whether it's as a development platform, production servers in a data center, or in the cloud, a branch environment, or the edge. From an operating system perspective and systems management, we have our enterprise product, SUSE Linux Enterprise Server. It's available and fully supported across a multitude of instruction set architectures, including ARM64. SUSE Linux Enterprise Server for ARM can be taken for a spin on products as small as a Raspberry Pi, on certified ARM64 servers, or in the cloud in the form of SUSE Linux Enterprise Server for ARM on Graviton 2 instances at AWS. SUSE Linux Enterprise Server includes a 13-year support framework from general availability plus service packs for those customers that require long-term support. SUSE Linux Enterprise is also the basis for our high-performance computing product, SLES for HPC. SLES for HPC was deployed as early as 2008 as part of the Catalyst UK initiative to demonstrate the viability of ARM-based systems for high-performance computing. SLES for HPC is also made available to independent hardware vendors or IHVs as the basis for their own operating systems platform. Last but certainly not least on the OS, SUSE Linux Enterprise Micro is our ultra-reliable, lightweight OS purpose-built for the edge. From a systems manager perspective, as I mentioned previously, SUSE Manager agents are available for SUSE Linux Enterprise Server for ARM, and they're covering both SUSE Linux Enterprise Server version 12 and the current version SUSE Linux Enterprise Server 15. SUSE Manager can also manage other x86 distribution, including Red Hat, CentOS, Ubuntu, and Oracle Linux. When it comes to Kubernetes orchestration, or the layer above, and management, rancher management, our Kubernetes orchestrators, RKE and K3S, as well as our block storage solution, Longhorn, are available for ARM64. Please note, ARM64 support on Longhorn is still experimental. We welcome the assistance of the development community testing and providing feedback to the Longhorn project. If you really think about it, SUSE offers the industry-only container management platform capable of managing all CNCF-approved Kubernetes distribution. When you combine our Linux OS and Kubernetes portfolio for ARM, you'll see that we're giving developers and customers the tools to address today's business challenges and their digital transformation journey. Now that we talked about the product portfolio, let's talk about some of the key projects and tools that SUSE uses on a day-to-day basis for its own product development. Since this is, after all, a developers conference, I want to start with three foundational elements. The first one is OpenSUSE. OpenSUSE is our community distribution, our version of Linux, available across many instruction set architectures, including ARM64. OpenSUSE is available in two formats: Tumbleweed, which is a rolling distribution for those looking for the newest Linux packages and working at the bleeding edge, and Leap, which is a regular release version sharing the same source code and the exact same binary packages. Why is this important? Leap is a great distribution for those who are interested in taking SUSE Linux Enterprise Server for a spin, but would like a no-cost option or avoid product registration complexities while they're in early development. With Leap, you can also migrate to a fully supported version of SUSE Linux Enterprise Server if support is needed with no reinstallation. The second tool that I want to talk about is the OpenSUSE Build Service, or OBS. OpenSUSE Build Service is a generic system for building and distributing packages or images from source code. It's designed to support a variety of Linux platforms and instruction set architectures. You build once and you make your packages available for SUSE, OpenSUSE, Red Hat, Fedora, Ubuntu across ARM64, x86, and others. There is a hosted version of OpenSUSE build service online, or you can download the appliance image and set up on your own. Last but certainly not least, there's Kiwi. Kiwi is a command line tool for building images on Linux. Kiwi is also used to build images in the OpenSUSE build server. As a matter of fact, that's how the SUSE Linux Enterprise distribution is built. It's straightforward and idiomatic with XML, YAML, and JSON file processing, and it's flexible, and it can build in almost any type of image. OpenSUSE, the OpenSUSE build service, and Kiwi are not the only projects that we either use or contribute to. On the top right of the slide, you're going to see the URL for the full project list. The slide itself shows some of the projects that SUSE likes to highlight. But as I mentioned before, there are many more. However, given the development nature of this conference, I'll list a few. One being the SUSE Linux Enterprise Base Container Image, or what we call BCI. Although BCI is not a project itself, BCI or Base Container Images are, as the name implies, the base container images for SUSE Linux Enterprise Server. If your next container is based on SUSE Linux Enterprise, BCI is your starting point. We have Hipper. Hipper builds upon Helm and charts to handle package management with cluster operators in mind. Cluster operators use cases are generally out of scope for Helm, and Hipper addresses that gap. We have Harvester. Harvester is a modern hyper-converged infrastructure solution built for bare metal servers using an enterprise-grade open source technologies, including Kubernetes, KubeVirt, and Longhorn. And of the ones that I'm listing for now, Omni is a project to provide AI ops for Kubernetes plus logging plus monitoring. In its current form, it's performing log anomaly detection. So you ship your logs to Omni, and its AI models will automatically learn and identify anomalous behavior in the control plane, etcd, and the application's logs. So what are the next steps? What's the call to action? For those interested in the operating system and associated tools, I posted links for OpenSUSE, OBS, the OpenSUSE build service, Kiwi, as well as the SUSE Linux Enterprise documentation. For those interested in Kubernetes and cloud native space, there are links to the Rancher suite of tools and training. And last but certainly not least, if your company would like to pursue partnership with SUSE, stop by our SUSE partner page and learn about our partnership benefits. And with that, I thank you for your time. If there's anything else, don't hesitate to contact us. Have a nice day.